Hello everyone, this is Randomized Gaming and I am your host, Random Gamer Riven. And once again we are back on with another indie first impressions video. And in today's video we will be looking at the rather excellent Dark Quest 2 from Brainseal. And just before we get this show on the road, I must make the disclaimer that Randomized Gaming was kindly provided a copy of the game on PS4 by Brainseal directly, but our commentary is our own. And I should also add, we previously purchased the PC version prior to receiving a code from Brainseal to look at the PS4 version. So I think it's fair to say it's fairly self-explanatory that Dark Quest 2 is indeed the sequel to the Xbox 360 indie game Dark Quest. And indeed we've actually covered Dark Quest 1, the original, on the channel itself, and I'll link to the video just above. Now, if you haven't played the first game, Dark Quest is a tactical RPG set in a sort of dungeon crawl environment. It is heavily inspired by the Milton Bradley and Games Workshop board game HeroQuest, and it's also heavily inspired by the games based on HeroQuest as well. This one even more so because they actually use the same camera angle. Is it as good a game as the original video games based on HeroQuest? Well, that's debatable, but it's still a very good tactical RPG. So the story picks up roughly where the original game left off. Basically, it suggested that the heroes thought the Dark Wizard was defeated, but it turns out he wasn't and has been plotting his revenge. He's apparently attacked the king and killed most of the knights in the castle, and it's up to the original adventurers to once again track down and finish the Dark Wizard for good. So in the original game you got a barbarian, dwarf and wizard characters. This game adds in the 3 additional new characters, the knight, the archer and the dark monk, although the knight's a sort of cross between a knight and a cleric. The dark monk, however, is incredibly powerful, and the archer's not bad for sort of range attacks. Initially you only start off with the barbarian as part of the story, but you quickly unlock the other characters as you progress through the missions. Most of the characters are found at the tavern, apart from the dwarf who has to be rescued in one of the missions. So the gameplay is very straightforward. It is a very simple tactical RPG where you move your characters around, try and defeat the enemies, try and avoid traps and search for gold and treasure and secrets. It's a very cleverly done. And this second game actually improves upon the original in quite a few ways. Notably, the timer that plagued the original game has been removed, thankfully. Also, the Skulls of Fate no longer randomly occur. You can pre-select them in rooms, and they're no longer a sort of Damocles sword hanging over you, as often if you spent too long in a dungeon in the original game, the Skulls of Fate abilities would slowly just wear your health down and kill you. So this sequel starts with you on basically a tutorial mission with you playing the barbarian and having to fight your way to track down the Dark Wizard. It's a very short mission, but you do get a quick sample of the gameplay and how it's going to work as a tactical RPG. Interestingly, once you get to town, that's where the bulk of the hub stuff is. In town you can upgrade your heroes, you can buy new equipment with the gold, you can resurrect heroes, you can recruit new heroes, you can sell items to the merchant and even haggle with him over the price you'll actually get with them. And finally you can get a buff for a character by using Ellie's potions, and I use Ellie's potions with a slightly exaggerated term, as in the PC version that was actually the brothel, but it's been renamed to the PS4 version. But basically you visit there, you get a good time, and then you'll have a random buff for your next mission. So once you're all set to go to your next mission, you head to the village elder and he shows you your current progress and the various missions you can choose. There's quite an elaborate map and you can choose to really go any way you want. The various missions do change in difficulty, and I have to admit I did find a few bits where I found the difficulty spiked up quite exponentially then dropped down. One of the mechanics is the fact that you can actually replay missions in this. Each time you replay them the stage gets harder, but you can recollect gold and level up potions to upgrade them. In fact, I replayed the second stage about 3 or 4 times to get multiple level up potions to level up my characters. And you can also put that additional gold towards any equipment that you want to buy, and there's some very good equipment. In fact, it really becomes essential for some of the later missions. So each of the characters has their different abilities. The barbarian is mainly a fighter. You can give him, I found best to give him additional swords to give him a stronger attack, also armor. He has one of the weaker defenses, but his abilities enable him to basically go mono a mono with certain characters, indeed dueling to the death, and he's a very good character for clearing rooms quite effectively and strongly as long as he's able to withstand the damage. The dwarf is very much a defensive character. He can lay traps, he can also disarm traps and find traps, and believe you me, he's effectively an essential character because many dungeons feature an awful lot of traps that if you simply don't have someone who can detect them, you're going to take a lot of damage just from stepping on the wrong squares. He's a great character all round, and certainly a very defensive one, as you can actually equip him with the best armor in the game, and then it makes him very hard to be hit by most enemies. The wizard is your typical spellcaster with a variety of spells. He's by far the weakest character when you first get him, and he's a character I find that you really need to level up a bit before you can get the best out of him. But once you do get the best out of him, he's got some great spells and can clear rooms full of enemies very, very quickly. The archer is a long-range character, very useful for, like I said, range attacks. Not so good at close combat. When she takes damage very easily, takes a lot of damage very quickly, so I had to put a sort of health amulet on her. She's another one that can also search for traps as well if you don't want to take the dwarf. The knight, or as I like to call her, the cleric, is, and again, a very, very essential character. She's one of the few characters that can heal up your party members. She's quite a good defensive and attacking character, and she has lots of buffs to either increase your health, put a shield on you to withstand damage, and even increase your attacking ability, so she's well worth taking as a support character. Finally, we have the Dark Monk, who is incredibly powerful when leveled up. Initially, he starts off as one of the weakest as he doesn't have much help, but he's the character that really benefits from one of the abilities in this game that's called Fate. And what Fate is if you lose all your HP and are killed, and you have a faith point, you will lose the faith point instead. And he can be maxed of like 5 or 6 fate points that make him very, very challenging to kill. He's also got a great evasion when upgraded, so he can not only dodge enemies but can attack back. And he's a number of abilities such as being able to charm enemies to fight for you and even instantly kill certain characters as well. He also has a full screen explosion as well, which is great for clearing out a room of weak enemies. All in all, once leveled up, he is by far the best character, but he does take time to master. On top of that, there's also 4 hidden items throughout the actual game that benefit your teams as well if you can find them. And it's entirely dependent on you whether you search for them or not. There's about 27 levels in this game, and it's up to you which path you can do. You can explore every stage, or you can head directly to the Dark Wizards. It's entirely up to you. Personally, I found the difficulty such that occasionally a few of the bits I found it was worth going back to level up, and I found it more enjoyable going through all the different stages rather than speed running it. But if you want to speed run it, you can do. As a tactical turn-based game, it's a very solid title. I think one issue I have is that in the original HeroQuest you could split off your team. In this one you can't, and you only get a team of 3 players and they all have to stick together in the same team, which is a bit annoying. If you attempt to move them to different scenes, you'll just get a message one of them say we should stay together, which is a bit annoying. You can also only take up to a maximum of 3 players in any mission I've seen, although the PC version, a few of the homebrewed levels I played did allow you to take 4 characters. It would have been nice if there were 1 or 2 missions that allowed you to take all 6. Obviously, due to the limitations of the fact that you all have to sit in the same room, it does feel a bit limited, and I can see why perhaps they only had 3. But it would have been nice if you could have had more and also split your team off like you could in the original HeroQuest. Indeed, in the first mission in the original HeroQuest, The Maze, in the Gremlin graphics game, you had your heroes all dispersed throughout the game, and you had to group and meet up in the centre. I should also mention the excellent soundtrack Dark Quest 2 has. In fact, it has a very, very atmospheric and medieval soundtrack, one that directly reminded me of the original HeroQuest soundtrack. Indeed, so much so, I decided to look into it, and as expected, it was actually composed by Barry Leith, a veteran of the industry who also did the original Gremlin graphics game music. But yes, an excellent soundtrack, and one that fans of the original HeroQuest games will get a real kick out of hearing. As a tactical game, it is very enjoyable. You have to learn which enemies are your highest priority, so you get enemy wizards that can damage you from anywhere on screen, voodoo doll carriers that can stab you, the standard sort of goblins, orcs, undead which can survive being killed, a few bosses as well. There's an executor boss as well as a special goblin assassin boss as well you can face along the way to really challenge you. It's a really nice combination of gameplay and graphics. You start off in the sort of ruined rock stages, but as you progress you get into more castle-y environments, so there's a nice progression there as well. All in all, it progresses very well, and there's quite a meaty game here. I've still not finished it, and I've put about 10 hours into it now, replaying various stages and going through all the different missions. I've really enjoyed my time with it. It does have a few flaws. Notably, I had a bug where the cursor seemed to disappear, but fortunately if you press the L3 button it recenters it, and I think that feature was added solely in order to deal with that issue. Another problem, as I mentioned, you can't split up your team, so it feels there's a little bit of claustrophobic always having your characters together. Again, one or two missions the difficulty did spike a little bit, which I found made it very uncomfortable in some places, and I found I did need to replay. It's far better to concentrate leveling up one or two characters at first to really get the benefits of them before you start leveling up the others. In fact, in my main game at the minute I think I've got 3 characters I primarily use, and I'm still slowly leveling up the other characters because trying to level up all 6 characters at once is a recipe for disaster, as you will quickly find your team not being able to face off against some of the enemies they fight. The replay system is quite nice, although if you replay a mission too many times they do become very, very, very difficult. And I literally mean that. I've had one mission now, I'm on my 5th or 6th completion, and by that point it's virtually impossible to kill some of the enemies without getting your team killed because they become so hard. You really have to start hiding and running through some of the enemies. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Although you can replay missions, they do become steadily harder each and every time, with the enemies getting more health. So for me, Dark Quest 2 is a huge improvement over the original, and I've really enjoyed it. It's well worth playing if, like me, you enjoy tactical RPGs. If you fancy a sort of discount PSN title, this is actually a really great title to pick up. It's available on PSN for £9.99 and £14.99. I should also say the console versions all include couch co-op, although I haven't really tried it as I'm not quite sure how it would work in tactical RPG. The PC version doesn't include couch co-op, but it does include online multiplayer. It also includes a level editor as well if you want to create your own levels, and I did download a few on the PC version and some really good homebrew levels, so there are a few trade-offs between the two versions. The PC version is actually on Steam for £5.79. and I believe that in the US translates to $7.99, but don't quote me on that price. Finally, it's also available on Xbox One and Nintendo Switch if you want to play it on the go. So whichever format you've got, you have a variety of options. I would personally say go with the console version of your choice, but if you want to do your own levels, then certainly look at picking up the PC version as well. We've actually got both, and I must admit they do make a nice complement to each other. There is something nice about having the couch co-op in console, and again the ability to make your own maps in the PC version is a huge benefit. Perhaps it'd be nice to see if that feature comes to the console versions at some point, but it seems unlikely. All in all, I've really enjoyed my time playing Dark Quest 2. I think the only one really gripe I had was it crashed one time playing one of the missions, but other than that, I pretty much had a spotless playthrough experience, and I've really enjoyed it. It certainly gets the old noggin going as you plan your moves out and battle the various orcs, goblins, undead and hordes of monsters that you face. Really good fun. If you like tactical RPGs, I can't recommend this enough. A great cheap title to pick up on the various services, and a very good, nice, easy to play one. The missions are very much a bite-sized formula, so you can nip in and out in sort of 10-20 minutes. You're not going to spend hours and hours like some tactical RPGs do with each and every battle. This is quite short, fast-paced dungeon sections. Really good game. Highly recommend you pick it up. So all that's left for me to say is I've been your host, Random Gamer Riven, and as always, if you like this video, please do hit that like button, and if you like our content here at Randomised Gaming, please do hit that subscribe button. I will see you all in the next video.